Alright. The name is Dale. I'm here to do the reviews of EQ2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Hereditary, and I'm also going to do a quick recommendation of the Handmaid's Tale, a Hulu streaming service original series. These reviews and recommendations are done on behalf of Audio Liquor Magazine. We're going to start off with EQ2, the sequel to The Equalizer. I did not see a sequel coming to this movie because Denzel Washington has never done a sequel to any of his movies before in the past. And I have to say off the top, the sequel is not better than the first one. But my wife disagrees with me. She thinks Equalizer 2 is better than the first. Also, a sports commentator that I respect and I also value his opinion on movies believes the Equalizer 2 is better than the first as well. But, a few movie critics that I listen to and respect tend to agree with me. And what Equalizer 2 is about, if you're not aware, if you're not familiar with it, Denzel Washington plays this, I guess, retired special forces guy who used to do jobs for the government, U.S. government. He's retired now. He's a Lyft driver. Now, while driving for Lyft, he tends to help random people with their serious problems when they're in dire straits. For example, he brings back a kidnapped daughter. He imposes vigilante justice by whipping on these yuppies who drug and raped this young lady. Not spoiling anything, that's all in the trailers. The trailers tend to give too much nowadays. But the meat of the story is about his friend who he used to work for or work with. She gets killed and he's on his revenge trip to get rid of and kill anybody who had anything to do with her death. So that's what the story is really about. And the action is pretty good. The story is okay. Your basic story. I would have to say that I probably would give this a B grade. Antoine Fuqua, he's back directing. He directed the first one. This is the fourth movie him and Denzel Washington have done together. They did Training Day together, which is a classic. They did the remake of Magnificent Seven, which was a Western. It was very good, very entertaining. And now they got Equalizer 1 and Equalizer 2. So I can foresee an Equalizer 3 based on the box office so far. They might as well do a trilogy, but they don't want to take too long on that because Denzel is getting up there in age. So I kind of compare this to The Taken, which Liam Neeson's trilogy. And the reason why I compare Taken, Equalizer, and even John Wick, because you have lead actors playing action roles who are up there in age. You wouldn't know that by, looking at Keanu Reeves, but I believe he's in his early 50s. So I would have to say the Equalizer already is better than The Taken. I like the first Taken, but the second and third one not so much. And when it comes to comparing the Equalizer to John Wick, I think John Wick fight scenes and gun scenes superior to the Equalizer. Not to say that the action scenes in the Equalizer movies are not good, because they are, but they just can't compare to the John Wick action scenes. John Wick action scenes are just top notch. But I would say overall, I think the Equalizer movies so far are better. And you do have a third John Wick coming out. I mean, Denzel Washington is a much better actor than Keanu Reeves will ever be. I mean, to me, Denzel Washington is on the Mount Rushmore of best actors ever. So I say go to the movies and see it. It's entertaining. It's a good summer movie. Now we're going to move on to Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is the sequel to Ant-Man. And I have to say off the top, you're gonna see a common theme. I believe the first Ant-Man is superior to this sequel. I will give the first Ant-Man an A-, and Ant-Man and the Wasp I will give a B. It's a step down from Ant-Man. I was pleasantly shocked at the first Ant-Man movie. I thought it was just going to be okay, and it ended up being very good. Repeat value. Is one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite solo comic book movies from the MCU. The MCU is just killing it right now. They on a roll. They seem to not make bad movies at this point. I think you're probably not going to get anything less than a B- from the MCU from this point on. And that's how it's been for the last, 5 years? Maybe even more. But anyway, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the basis of the story, they're trying to save the Wasp's mother, who's played by Michelle Pfeiffer, from the quantum realm. And they touched on that in the first movie. But this is what the heart and meat of the movie is about. They're trying to save her from this other dimension where she's lost and stuck at. And you got Michael Douglas, he's the father of the Wasp. You got Paul Rudd coming back as Ant-Man. But the Wasp, she really steals the movie. She makes the movie. I believe the actress who plays the Wasp, I believe her name is Evangela Lilly or something like that. I'm sure I butchered that name. But anyway, she steals the movie. You got Michael Pena coming back. He's funny in this movie, but not nearly as funny as he was in the first one. T.I. comes back. You have a new addition with Lawrence Fishburne. He plays Goliath. That was a character from the comic books. And what I really like about this movie, opposed to the first one, that separates it from the first one, even though the first one is better, is you have the Wasp. She's front and center. She's on the billing. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's the name of the movie, whereas the first one was just called Ant-Man. And that's how it was in the comic books. They was always together with the Avengers and so on and so forth, going on adventures and fighting crime, fighting villains together as a team. So that's what makes this one special. The shrinking effects are very good. They get very creative with it. You have the villains are, the villains are just so. Now we're gonna move on to Hereditary. I was really loving this movie. I was really into it. It had me on the edge of the seat. By the way, it's a horror movie. I was really engaged to the end. This movie had me going. Until it got to the end, I was about to say this movie is gonna be like one of the best horror movies I ever seen. But the end just killed it. A bad ending can just ruin a good movie for me. That would have been good otherwise. The end, I had that, what the is this BS? That's what I probably literally said at the end of that movie. I was like, what was that? Because that ending was terrible. I don't know what they was thinking with that. They did such a good job until the end. And then they just got real cliche, your typical horror BS, floating people and so on and so forth. I was like, what is this? The acting was good, but that end just crashed and burned. I don't know what that end was. I'm gonna have to give it a C+, and I'm being nice with that grade. Only reason I'm not going lower because it did such a good job until that end. So that's what I'll say about Hereditary. I wouldn't recommend you go to the theater to see that. I will wait till you see it at home. But anyway, I'm gonna do a recommendation of Handmaid's Tale. It's a Hulu streaming service original series. It's 2 seasons in so far. I was late to the party. I was hearing about this series last year. It was getting all these Emmy and Golden Globe nomination, was winning awards, and I was curious about it, but I didn't have Hulu, and I had no plans on getting Hulu. I said to myself, Netflix is enough. That's the only streaming service I want to pay for at this time. But I end up renting The Handmaid's Tale Season 1 on DVD. I rented the DVD, an actual DVD, a physical DVD. I know you don't really hear about that too much nowadays. I rented on DVD, watched it, and I love it. I fell in love with it. Then after that, through the help of my folks, I was able to have access to Hulu, and I watched the second season, and I'm thoroughly impressed. I highly recommend you watch the first 2 seasons. If you don't have Hulu, I'm sure there's other ways you can. I'm guessing there's other ways you can see it if you don't have Hulu. But this series alone is worth thinking about purchasing Hulu. I would give it an A+ so far. I hope they don't try to just keep doing season after season after season. I think they should only do 4 or 5 seasons. Once you get past doing 6 seasons, you kind of taking the rest of the whole series getting stale. I mean, you see that with The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is not nearly as good as it used to be, because I think they're going on too long. I mean, I know some networks series are built for that, like Law and Order and stuff. They go on for years and years and years, but the way this is made and structured, I don't think this could be as, I think you run the risk of this not being nearly as good if you just go on season after season. I think someone said on a Facebook group that I'm with today was talking about 10 seasons, and I sincerely hope they don't, because I think that's going to ruin what they have. I think they should go 5 at the most and end it on a good note. That's what separates a cable series like Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is like only 6 seasons and is considered a classic. Boardwalk Empire, I think they only did like 5 or 6 seasons. The Wire, even though I think that was due to them not getting the ratings that they wanted, but still, that might have been for the best that it didn't keep going on and on. Think about Game of Thrones. The next season is the last season. End off a good note. Don't go too long in the tooth. Don't go too far. Don't be trying to do 8, 9, 10 seasons. And I hope they don't do that with this series. And there you have it. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm tired of talking.